Fellow Voyagers, do you feel appreciated by the people you work with? If so, you probably enjoy going to work every day. However, if you do not feel appreciated, then your work may simply be means of keeping food on the table. According to a survey by U.S. Department of Labor, 64% of Americans leave their jobs because they do not feel appreciated. And the number one factor in job satisfaction is not the amount of money we receive, but rather how we feel appreciated or valued by the work we do. Whether you're a business owner, a manager, or employee, you want to feel you're valued as a person. So would you like to feel appreciated at work? And do you want to have a happy and productive relationship with your manager or co-worker? Then you want to learn 5 languages of appreciations in the workplace. These are the 5 languages: words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, tangible gifts, and physical touch. These were described in a book by Gary Chapman. Before I introduce you each language, I would like to emphasize that appreciation is different from recognition. Recognition focuses on performance, but appreciation focuses on not only performance, but also the value as a person. Recognition is about improving performance and focus on what's good for the company, but appreciation focuses on what's good for the company and what's good for the employee. Recognition focuses on the desired behaviors, but appreciation involves both behaviors and hard attitude. Recognition is top-down, coming from the supervisors or managers. Appreciation can be in any direction, from colleagues to colleagues, or supervisor to team member, or from the frontline coworker to the president of the company. So everyone has a preferred language of appreciation. You need to find out the language of the other people by observing their behaviors. So don't not just focus on your needs, focus on other people's needs. So the first language is affirmation. It's verbally appraise the other person for an achievement or accomplishment. It can also be affirmation for their character or personalities. And you need to choose the situation where you deliver the most appropriate words of affirmation. Depending on the location and the time you say it, the effects can be great. Also, you need to be very specific. For example, you can say, "Thank you for showing up early and making sure we were ready to go when the kids arrived." You can also say, "I like the way you answer the phone in a cheerful tone and offer to help the customer resolve their concern." Those are very specific affirmations. Secondly, you can have quality time with your coworkers. There are 5 types of quality time. The first one is focused attention. The second one is quality conversation. The third is shared experience. And the fourth is working collegially with coworkers on a task. And the fifth one is small group dialogue. Depending on the setting in the workplace, you can choose any one of these to develop a quality relationship with your coworker or manager. For quality conversation in particular, you want to have very close eye contact. You want to look at the eyes of the other person and resist the impulse to interrupt. You want to listen for the feelings as well as their thoughts. And you also want to observe the body language because that tells a lot about the emotion of the person. And lastly, you need to affirm that feeling, even if they may disagree with your conclusion. The third language is acts of service. Okay, let me give you an example of a good quality time. And in the summer of this year, I had a one-on-one with my manager for the first time. In the past, we usually have a one-on-one after our performance review. And you know those conversations can be very intensive because you want to defend for yourself and say how much you have achieved this year. And then the manager will try to give you feedback to help you grow. However, this year, after hosting a series of seminars in the second quarter of Southern Light Career Fellowship, I know the strategy and had the courage to talk to my manager. So during that conversation, we check the criteria on our annual performance ahead of time, like half a year. We also reviewed what I did in first year and what I need to do for the second half of the year. From that point on, we open up to each other more and have a better relationship. Last week, we had another one-on-one meeting where we discussed my promotion. So that's how a quality time or quality conversation really helped to improve my relationship with my manager. The third language is acts of service. You need to make sure your own responsibilities are covered before you can help others. And you should also ask for help. Ask before you help, because you need to value and respect the person you're helping. You can ask this question: what would be helpful to you? And how would you like the task done? And when would be the best time to help? So when you serve, also you need to check your attitude and serve voluntarily. Don't feel like you're telling people what to do, but just offer your help and make sure you complete what you start. If you cannot complete a task, make sure you let other person know that you need to leave at a certain hour. Acts of service is my favorite language. Also, the favorite language of my husband. Our favorite time in our family is when we cook together in the kitchen. I'll clean up and cut the vegetables and he will cook it. And this also happens to be the favorite language of my younger daughter. The fourth language of appreciation is tangible gifts. You can give gifts to those people who appreciate them. You don't want to give people who do not like football. You don't want to give them football tickets then. And you don't want to give tickets to people who don't like ballet. And in the workplace, food and gift cards are most popular. In our company, we serve food a lot during the holiday. And today at lunchtime, we're going to have a holiday party. Other examples can be tickets to sporting events, retreats, or spa and golfs. It can also give them time off. Lastly, physical touch. This is controversial and least popular, but it's favored by babies and seniors. It can be a very powerful communicator of love and concern on time of crisis. The key here is that recipient is the one who decides what is appropriate or not. The acceptable physical touch in the workplace can be high fives, fist bumps, firm or quick handshake, a pat on the back, or a brief hug. So I show here a few body languages or physical touch. You can tell from their facial expression, these are appreciated. However, on the right side, these two are not appreciated. The lady was looking around and this lady was looking at with a phone face. So those are not appropriate. So at last, I want to help you how to understand your language. You can go to this website, 5lovelanguage.com or MBAinventory.com to find out what's best for you. And I also want to recommend you buy a gift of this book and give to your family member or coworker. Then they will know how to appreciate you. So that's a great Christmas gift. Thank you. Okay, now do you want to ask me questions? Yes, John.
Oh, thank you very much, Holly. I enjoyed the speech. And I'm going to say that that is something that very important for the workplace today. But I'm going to ask, what is appropriate for a person in the workplace to give to their supervisor or manager in terms of appreciation? Because it might be a little bit easier for the manager to say, "Hey, I appreciate you as a worker," but when you want to appreciate the manager without seeming like it's insincere.
Very good question. Yes, sincerity is very important. You don't want to please your boss just because you want to get a good feedback in your performance review. You want to tell him exactly what he did good in what area. So, for example, when my manager praised me for the effort I put in, I reply to his email saying, I appreciate you for giving me very specific feedback. It's also encouragement for him because he knows exactly how he can encourage you. A lot of time they may not know that. I learned this language this year, but I don't think my manager really knows the language. The other point I will say that you can also appreciate his guidance by giving him a gift. I think gifting is a very simple action. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but it shows your appreciation. I'm sure it will be well received. I will be very hesitating to give any physical touch in the workplace because I think that should be a boundary, and that boundary is very subtle. It's not very entirely clear to different people. My manager is also a Chinese. We have never touched or shake hands at all. So that's not what I would do.
No, inside the workplace, I'm down to the fist bumps when I greet people. That's, it's the COVID thing to do, but also it, that's about as close as I'm going to get to someone.
Yeah. What would you do, John, if you have a chance to appreciate your manager?
Oh, well, this year, number one, it has to be my manager. And I'm going to say that during my career, about half my managers have been female. My manager currently is female. But she one time was in the office and she noticed that, I think I may have shown this, have this small camera holder that I use in the office and a few other places to hold my cell phone while I am doing business calls. And this is picked it up in Target. It's inexpensive. It's something I am going to give to my manager, one of these. Like I say, it has to also fall, in my case, into the inexpensive category. You give something that's too much and it's just kind of costs too much and it's embarrassing.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions from the audience? Lynn.
Yeah, I'm curious, Holly, do you have any suggestions for how you might bring this topic up with your manager or someone who is, above you in the workplace position? How do you suggest bringing this up without seeming like you are upset or disgruntled or something, without offending them? Do you have any suggestions?
May I make sure I understand your question? You're trying to say if you're upset, and how do you bring up your opinion to your manager?
No, how do you bring up the 5 love languages to them? How do you get them interested without them feeling offended that you want them to do something? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, that's a good question. So remember, I suggest that I buy this book as gift to the family member or manager. I think he will not feel offended because this is a universal language. Everybody will need this either at home or their workplace. It will help them to build strong relationship. So I will put this together with other other stuff. And this will be one of the gifts, right? So I think he will, if he's a wise man, he will appreciate it. If he doesn't appreciate it, it's okay. He can pass it on to other people. And I believe he will enjoy having a gift like this.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Hi, Mark. Yes.
Okay, so I have a complex question. I work remotely. I never meet, much less get to touch any of my coworkers. So my question is, as a consultant who's often brought into a Marcom group because they're not doing their job as well, as efficiently as their management thinks they are, how do I get into the group and start, basically improving things without getting everybody upset? I mean, how do I show my appreciation of my coworkers who need to, raise up their area of expertise without freaking them out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And from your question, I can tell you really care about your employee. So I would like to suggest quality time. Quality time is where you have 100% attention to the other person. So you can schedule a Zoom meeting with your employee and just listen to what they have to say and find out any issues they are struggling with. Everyone experienced a lot of stress and anxiety during COVID because they are all isolated and working alone. So build that bonding by having a quality conversation with them. In my second slide, I list what a good quality conversation is. You can review the slide through the video, and then you will learn strategy. Also, I think it's important to put down our own needs and to focus on the needs of other people. Really pay attention to their needs and then see and just offer some advice. I think work is not our entire life. There are many other things. If you can dig out what's going on inside their heart, then you will be able to relate to them and help them to be more productive. How are we doing on time? If we don't have time do we have time for one more question? Okay. All right, one more question. Okay, Maria or Nancy? Yes, Nancy.
I'm interested in the physical touch because you don't know if somebody will allow you to get within their bubble of comfort until you sometimes attempt it. And you can make people very uncomfortable by attempting to hug them when they don't want to be hugged. But sometimes you don't know it until you're actually in the act of hugging. So how do you get around that?
Yeah, it's very tricky to address this, and it's really depending on the person. You can tell from their body language if they're enjoying the hug or not. You can start with a gentle hug, and if they stay back, then you probably want to stop. Or you can ask them, do you mind me hugging you? And I can tell you as an Asian, hugging is not common, but I've learned to do hugs in this country. So I'm sure you can, if you're genuine and you're just showing your love, they will appreciate it. And I heard another way of saying that in the workplace, usually a lady can initiate a hug, but a guy should not. But it can be the other way around, right? So.
But sometimes you don't know as you start to hug somebody how repulsive it might be to the other person. Yeah.
Also, it depends on situation. If you're not doing anything and you suddenly hug them, they may feel offended. But if they're in a crisis, like if they have a family member lost, if they lost a family member or they are deeply sad. Like last night, I was talking to our small group host. She was struggling with her business. So I hugged her. I put my shoulder behind her back and kind of hugged her. And I think she appreciated that from her facial expression. Thank you. Good questions.